really good shape. It looks like everybody's here. Okay. So it being the evening of February 24th, I'll call the meeting of the Conservation Commission to order, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15th order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted at this meeting. Board members will participate in the meeting remotely, as this meeting will be accessible to the public via the Zoom online option. Instructions are available at the town website. Moving forward in this meeting, the chair instructs the meeting administrator to withhold access to speak at the meeting until or unless such persons are requesting to speak are visible on screen and respectfully request such access. Okay. Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the Notice of Intent for the proposed construction of a single-family dwelling with grading, utilities, and landscaping located within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands at Assessors Map 64, Block 212, Lot 81, 9 Lovers Lane, Bellingham. John Federico, Gary and Howland has submitted the filing on behalf of South Central Realty, Corey Drive, Milford. The continuations will be held at the Bellingham Municipal Center via Zoom on February 24th at 7. Okay. John is here.
I am. Thank you guys for having me again. So with regards to this, we had a few topics that came up during the last meeting. We were looking to get some stamped engineer plans from Versalock regarding the actual wall itself and the design for it, as well as a few cross sections and some construction methodology. I do have some updates for everything, but if you would like me to start off, we can cover the Versalock plans first. We could do the cross sections first, whichever the commission is amenable to.
Sure. We did request a cross section, so if you would like, if Jim would share, I'll allow you to share your screen. We can take a look at the cross sections, and then we can look at the engineered drawings that were prepared.
Sure. If I could get your permission, Jim.
Yep, you should be all set.
All right, thank you so much.
All this information has been distributed by Dropbox to the commission, so hopefully we had an opportunity to take a peek at it. Let's go.
Sure. Before I do the cross sections, I just wanted to point out a couple of the locations first, just so everybody's kind of clear for what we're looking at here. So I'm going to have to share my screen twice just to get everybody to show.
Okay.
Is everybody able to see the copy of the plan in front of us?
Yes.
All right, great.
Yes.
So the first cross section that we have is going to be north-south. So we are running through the center of the lot where my cursor is going through. And the cross-section view is going to be facing east towards the open space parcel. So Lover's Lane would be on the left-hand side of that cross-section. For the second cross-section that we have, and another one is provided with a little bit more detail on the Versalock plans, but it is just looking facing the wall from parcel B. My cross section is just more to kind of illustrate where the building would be falling in relation to the overall length of the wall. And then that also shows the existing grade at the face of the wall so that the commission can have a little bit of an understanding there. The final cross section that we have is through the center of the site. And it is from a view, if you were standing at parcel B, looking north from like the bottom of the hill, looking up essentially. Just so that everybody's kind of clear there for that. All right, is everybody able to see the cross section now?
We are.
Okay, great. So as mentioned, this is facing east, and it's a north-south cross section. Existing grade is the dash line that you see represented here. We have a proposed grade sloping to Lover's Lane on our property, garage showing the footing as well for it, basement area, first floor, and then our proposed grade to the Versalock wall. Again, this is shown through the center of the lot, so I don't have the boulder wall or anything shown on the opposite side of the house for this one here. But essentially, what would be going on for this one here, anything at the base of the wall, it's very minimal grading at the 3:1 in order to make everything work out there. On the plans, it looks a little bit more pronounced just because of the angle that is coming through. Essentially, for those existing contours, everything slopes towards that southeastern corner of the site. But it is just a very gradual 3:1 slope that's going to be there. Essentially for the construction of the wall itself, and then this would also wrap around the wall. But we will be digging out for the footer here, very minimal into the existing grades. We'll be installing 2 to 3 blocks and then have the geogrid pulled back as needed for it. That area in between the existing grade and where the geofabric would be compacted. And then as everything is compacted and leveled out at that point, we will be then going up additional courses. It's not that the wall would be installed first and then any backfill to be taking place. Everything would be done in, essentially like a 12-inch lift as we get up to final grade at that point. Is there any questions right now for at least this cross section through the center of the site?
I don't have any, Frank. I mean,
Nope, I'm fine.
yep.
The rain garden's to the right, right?
Yes, the rain garden will be located down here. Because it was cut through the center of the site, the rain garden did not fall into that view. But essentially where the rain garden is, if we were to essentially reposition that, it would just divot down a very little bit and then come back up meeting existing grade. There is no intent to have any additional fill or anything brought in to create that there.
And what's being done with the slope between the rain garden and the Versalock wall? What is the plan and the operating plan? What are the plans call for?
So right now, as far as the slope goes, that's going to be just proposed as a 3:1 slope. It's intended to be a grass area, but if that's something that the commission would like to carry over any of the other comments from the past lots that we had, like 78 or 79, we can obviously update with any sort of notes if needed for that.
I do have a question / observation. If looking down at the overhead view, if I remember right, the left side of the lot as you're looking down on it and with Lover Lane at the top, the property 82, I think it is, to the left of it, abuts it completely, right? I mean, there's no like right-of-way easement or pathway through there, correct?
So 82 is over where my cursor is shown over here.
The open space is there, Mike.
No. To the left as you're facing the view right now. Lot 80, sorry, not lot 82. Lot 80.
Yes.
Okay, so my question is this. If there is a wall that is at the lowest point, the left-hand corner of lot 81, the block stone combination, and then it becomes all stone boulder wall,
Yes.
goes all the way off the property, and it's grass below, how is the property owner going to maintain that grassy area and mow it when they can't get over a wall with a mower? Because they can't go down the other side of the parcel B area to get to access to it.
As far as that goes, that's something that we could possibly have maintenance done through the rain garden easement. If there is a concern over that, we really can't grade in anything for a slope there, but
no, I'm not looking to grade it a slope or anything. Don't get me wrong. I'm fine if it grows in and becomes vegetated heavily, but I'm thinking the property owner might not want to have that happen or feel that they have to maintain it or something. And there's a stone wall which stops them from mowing the small area in the backyard and then over into and around down toward the rain garden. Certainly don't want to mow the rain garden, but just it seems like you've created a barrier that's not going to be able to maintain a grassy area. So maybe the commission or developer wants to consider something alternate for that area.
As far as alternate goes, what would be some of your thoughts with regards to that?
I don't have any. I just
Actually, I think your initial thought was correct. I think that if the property owner decides that it's too onerous to perform maintenance on the area, then it will become naturally vegetated, and it won't affect the rain garden function because the infiltrator, the the roof infiltration units will be providing sufficient groundwater to keep that, viable.
And also too, it does pitch towards the rain garden, so any runoff that does come down the site, if it doesn't infiltrate into the ground, will eventually make its way over to that rain garden area as
I
well.
think, Mike, somebody buys lot 81 or lot 80 for that matter, their backyard is, the 20 feet from behind their walkout to the wall. That's going to be their backyard.
Right, I have no confidence that that will be clearly explained to the property owner or future property owners, that they don't have to maintain and fine. In fact, it's fine with us not to maintain down there. In fact, if trees start growing up, they may want to preserve their view. I don't know how nice a view it is back through their backyard and not see scrub pines and stuff like that popping up beyond their wall and want to go maintain it knowing it's still on their property. So just the access point, we don't want people climbing over the wall back and forth lugging equipment, or if they chop down trees, they shouldn't leave them down there, back there. They should, so just some sort of clarity to the property owner as to what they should or shouldn't do beyond the wall. We're going to have badges on the fence, correct?
Yes, that would be the intent for it. And then as far as that goes, I mean, I'm sure that we can put something together to inform the property owner. I don't believe they're going to be receiving a copy of the plan or anything, so I don't think any notes or anything on the plan would be sufficient there. But if that's something that we need to include, like in some sort of like a purchase and sales type of agreement or anything along those lines, I'm sure we can talk to the applicant's legal team about putting that together.
I'll tell you what.
John, when you said that we could access the area back there through the rain garden easement, it sounded like you were speaking on behalf of the developer / a agreement. A property improvement. What do you call it? Land property owners committee or association. Is there one?
I'm not sure what would be proposed for that. I do know that we had provided a rain garden access easement. So I'm just thinking that if absolutely needed to be accessed for that area, that they could get through it there.
And Mike, in terms of the property owner, we are allowing activity right to the point of the rain garden. If the property owner decides that they want to maintain that, then, that's up to them to figure out the methodology. If they don't want to maintain it, they don't have to maintain it. If they want to, if there are trees that spoil their view shed, they can cut them down. I mean, I don't think we want to get involved in minutia of,
And also too, just, sorry for cutting you off, Cliff.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, also just from like a logical standpoint, I don't really foresee somebody wanting to have to go all the way around to the access easement or having to traverse that 4-foot portion of the wall in order just to use a sloped area in that case. So there shouldn't really be any sort of concerns at that point for like people going down into there to try to use it. Also too, do bear in mind that we do have the fence that is proposed along that to help deter anybody from throwing the clippings over there. In addition, as well as trying to lug any of that equipment that you had mentioned over the wall.
So let's take a look at the next cross section.
Sure. So the next cross section that I have here, as mentioned, this would be north-south facing west. So we have Lover's Lane on the right-hand side of this cross section now. Essentially, this is just kind of showing a view of the wall if you were looking from parcel B, but mostly this is just to show the relation of the house in terms of the wall. So essentially, this is the 20-foot backyard area that they would have, and then this space would just be left open, or it has the no disturb buffer, so nothing would be touched at that point there. As far as the footings and everything that I've shown on this, this was prior to receiving the structural drawings from Versalock. So I just kind of estimated these in here, but I will go into a little bit more detail when we take a look at the Versalock ones for the actual depths or anything that we're going to be excavating through there. Again, this was just more of kind of a visualization for what would be going on.
That's exactly what we are looking for. So I think maybe we can move to the,
One quick question, Cliff, if I could. The dotted line, John, that represents the existing grade.
grade.
I understand that the Versalock below the grade measurements might be more accurate and different than what you're showing. That's fine. Above the existing grade line, however, is that a correct representation how high the wall will be in the back as compared to the front of the lot above the grade line? So if you're standing in the open space, which is where it's viewed from,
Yes.
you would be standing on the grade that's shown on that dotted line?
Well, the grades do slope down into where the open space parcel is. So it depends on kind of where you're standing there looking at it. But as far as this dashed line representing the existing grade goes, that is cut right through the front face of the wall. So if we were to go right up to the wall after it's constructed, this is what the grade would be there. And that is something that would be protected by the silt fence, so nothing would be changing on, obviously, the open space side of things there.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the Versalock engineered drawings.
I do have that final cross-section if the commission did want to take a look at that at all.
Okay. Sorry.
Sure. And then that final one was just the cut through the center of the lot. As I mentioned, the grades do taper off into that southeastern corner of the site at the bottom of the overhead view that you were looking at. So again, we would be going in, digging down approximately 22 inches to where the bottom of the base stone would be. They would be filling in about 6 inches with sand or gravel as specified on the structural plans, and then we'll start installing the blocks. Once they clear 2 to 3 blocks, they would be having the geogrid pulled in. That would get pulled as far back as needed and then compacted and filled accordingly. As they progress up the wall and compacting all the way out to meet existing grades, once they get to the point of where the foundation would be, then that construction will be done in conjunction. Essentially, as we've already stated previously, no work will have to be done on the front side of the wall. Everything can be constructed on the back side. Essentially, they would be using the compacted area as like a flatter base to do work as they work their way up, and then can blend in anything accordingly with it. And then again, this is just more for visualization purposes, but if there are any questions, I can try to answer them.
Okay, let's look at the
Versalock, sure.
Versalock engineered proposal. I see our Director of Inspectional Services is present. And once we take a quick look at these, because everyone's had an opportunity to peruse them, I'm going to ask that our administrator relay the conversation that she had with our Director of Inspectional Services relative to the actual construction methodology. And then we'll have Frank comment on some of his proposed special conditions, because I think it's all going to be tied together. So if you would proceed.
Sure. So with regards to the Versalock plans, the structural engineer, his name is Randall Brogdon, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I did speak to him on inspections that would be done for the wall, as that was one of the comments brought up during the last meeting. Typically, he would be going out to do 1 to 2 inspections, but any more or if any are not needed at all, that would be dictated, he said, by the municipality directly, since this is going to have to be pulled with the building permit through the building department. So he will be the one that can certify the wall and any construction that will be completed as satisfactory. With regards to the actual construction itself, after speaking with the applicant a little bit further, they are going to be subbing that out to a third-party contractor who specializes in Versalock walls. And if needed at all, as mentioned during one of the last meetings, Versalock does offer to have one of their representatives come out to also help oversee that construction to make sure that everything is done according to the plans and to Versalock specifications. As far as the actual plan itself goes here, are there any particular areas that you would like me to note or zoom in on? I know off to the side here, they do provide a kind of a typical cross section for the wall. Base of the wall, they do allow for a 3-to-1 slope, which is what we would be proposing down by the rain garden side. There will be 12 inches of what they refer to as a separation stone. They do have the size minimum requirements specified in the general notes here. That would also have a foundation or wall drain installed there. As far as the outlets go, it is mentioned in the plans that it would be outletting on either end of the wall or at 40-foot intervals along the wall length. So that is something that will be well draining there. There's no concerns with any sort of water or hydraulic pressures trying to push out the wall and cause failure there. Also with regards to that, outside of the 12 inches of the separation stone they do have a note for any sort of backfill that would be placed there, as well as notes on their compaction inlets. Outside of that, it's just more of their general notes. They do have a curve detail down here that does add to the structural integrity of the wall. Instead of the 45-degree angles that we had proposed there, they would be using the blocks and doing a slight offset adjustment with them in order to provide this curve. And as mentioned, that is something that would be more structurally sound versus having to cut the blocks or create a 45-degree angle there. They do also provide on here typical fence post detail, and then on the next page they do have installation notes for those fence posts. It is recommended that the fence posts would be installed outside of the geogrid lengths, but in the event, in this case here, that they would have to be installed behind the wall, they do have some special notes for the care of the geogrid to make sure that nothing's done that would jeopardize the integrity of that. Outside of that, let me just see here. They just also provide on this one here a compaction note as well as just a standard block view. There is a second sheet though that does provide some more information, including a cross section as well as those notes I mentioned on the post for the fence installation. Is there anything before I swap pages that you would like me to zoom into or note specifically on this here?
I think I'm okay. Frank? You okay?
I'm okay, yeah. I think some of the questions I had, we'll get into later, but they're being answered.
Great. Another thing just to note while I have it fresh on my mind, I know there were some concerns working in close proximity with the wall and the foundation. They also do have a note here on the compaction equipment. Anything between 0 and 4 feet will have to be hand compacted. And then anything from 4 to 15 feet away from the wall, they specify no large machines other than a 2-drum walk-behind vibratory roller. That is something that should be able to fit within the amount of space between the rear of the wall and the foundation without any sort of issues there. And that's not something that again, would be using any sort of large equipment on the opposite side of the wall or doing any sort of work on or close to the open space side of things.
And the foundation will be constructed concurrently with the construction?
Yes, once it does reach the level of being flush with that layer of block, geogrid, and any compacted material, then they would start to set up anything for the forms and proceed forward with the foundation construction, again, in conjunction with the wall construction.
Okay. So, like I said, our Director of Inspectional Services is present. No, Tim, is there anything here that is unusual, or is there anything here? I know we have some issues about the fence post installation and all of that. They pull building permit, if you would let the commission know, how does that process work? How would you, interact with the inspection of the engineer of record? How many inspections would you require to make sure that the work is done properly?
Yeah, so Cliff, good evening. So I did have a conversation with Ann earlier this week, obviously. So one of the concerns was the proximity of the wall to the, I guess, the property line of the open space in regards to maybe maintaining the wall. So we were looking at the distances from the foundation to the lot line, just to see if the house could scoot over toward lot 80 a little bit, to kind of to give a little more room to open space. Isn't that correct, Ann?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes. And when,
So, yeah. So with that being said, I guess, I'm not looking to get into the engineering of the wall. That's why they're designing it. But I do have a couple questions on the fence post. But so the wall itself. So what is John, what's the warranty on the block of the wall? I guess that was their concern, being so close to the open space. If there was a failure, are they going to disturb the open space area? That was one concern. So I don't know, what is the warranty of the wall, like 20 years or something like that?
I'm not sure in that case. It would be whatever's typical for Versalock. I can try to follow up with them and get some more information. I would have tried to got that beforehand. I wasn't aware that anything warranty related might be coming up though.
Okay, so that was one conversation we had, and so the 45-degree corner on the wall, is that out now, and you're gonna radius it like that?
Well, as far as it goes, we're still proposing that, but during construction, they would be following what they have here for a curve detail.
Okay.
They also have some specifications for those. Since the blocks aren't perfectly square, as you can see in the upper left-hand corner here, that does allow for some flexibility in terms of how close they get those in order to help make that radius. And
Right.
that is something that I believe it might be mentioned in one of their notes, or at least it was in my discussions with the engineer, that does actually make it for a more structurally sound wall than if we did try to have it as a 90-degree or even a 45-degree angle.
Yeah, no, I can see that definitely. All right, so moving over to the fence post, the installation. I saw the note that the manufacturer put on the plan, regarding the fence post. So with the geogrid going through the
Yes.
grid. So the posts are going to be, I can't tell what the scale is. I mean, how far from the top of the wall is the fence proposed, I guess?
Right now, we don't have anything set in stone for that. Essentially, we would be going behind the wall with it. Whatever is typical in that case, I don't know if they would come, 6 inches off the uppermost block, or if that might be a foot off the uppermost block. But whatever is typical there, that's where the fence post would be installed, and then running parallel along that whole length.
All right. I can see what their concern is. That's why they obviously put the note on there to cover themselves. But am I looking at this correctly? Is there going to be a sleeve installed while they're doing the geogrid?
This is a typical one. As far as what the specifics are for the fence post installation, that would come from the contractor.
Okay.
I know that they do specify, and I can show on the second sheet, if you would like me to flip over to that now.
Sure.
They do have a few alternatives listed. One of them in the notes, they do state that they do not recommend or would like to see any sort of square posts installed that way. But they do allow for a rounded post, and if it does need to have a concrete sleeve, they do have specifications in there to how to handle that.
Yeah, please go to the second page. I think it's
Sure.
more illuminating.
Tim, I did speak to John about shifting over the construction of the house. I guess they have to adhere to the zoning board permit of the 25-foot setback from building to building between lots. Is that correct, John?
That is correct. Currently on the plan, and I can flip it back after we take a look at sheet 2 here, it is at its closest point 25.5 feet away from the adjacent structure. That is something that we try to provide on our survey side, about 6 inches of play to make sure that we don't have any sort of issues once everything is constructed. Since we are tight to the setback line, about 10.8 feet, if I recall correctly, with a requirement of 10 feet for the setback, that most likely that side would be pinned in any sort of, pinned at the footings to allow them to do any sort of offsets accordingly to get to the other side. If that makes sense there.
Yep, okay. So I guess on the wall on the fence installation, I guess, you know, I'll work with the contractor on that. He's gonna pull a separate permit anyway. I think the best way to proceed with that would be, you know, lay out the fence posts while they're doing the grid, instead of just driving something through the grid.
Yeah,
You
no,
know, cutting a circle.
to drive
Right.
anything through in that
Yeah.
case.
Cutting a circle in it and doing the layout of the fence posts. That way they could just put sleeves in and then put the posts down into the sleeve. But I can go over with that with the contractor when they get going and coordinate inspections. You know, I just want to see the geogrid put in the way it's designed, I guess, at the end of the day.
Sure. And with regards to that, if there are any concerns over the geogrid, I know that there are a couple of notes on here that we can go over a little bit more specifically for that. But as of right now, the alternatives that they have provided here would be starting at note 5. Preferred location for fence is beyond the length of the geogrid where it cannot be accomplished. Following alternatives are available. Alternative 1, fence post located less than 3 feet from the rear block. Use the sleeve-it fence post installation system. Procedure involves sleeve-it post riser installed when the wall is approximately 24 inches below its final grade. And then if there is any geogrid that sleeve-it riser would have to go through at all, they do recommend to hand cut any geogrids at that point. Pretty much all of this installation would be hand done. Nothing would really be done with machinery. Alternative 2, again, if it is going to be installed, you know, within that 3 feet or so, if there is geogrid located 19 inches from the surface, soil above the geogrid is to be excavated and geogrid hand cut. Hand cut hole in the grid is to just be large enough for the post installation. If the post extends to the further grid layers, it may be driven through additional layers, provided that the driven end is tapered to form a point. And then they do also note that square posts shall not be driven through geogrid layers. Driving wood posts in close proximity to the wall may push the wall face outward due to displaced soil. So obviously we would be avoiding any sort of square post being driven in as such like that. They also go down and say that if it is more than 19 inches, it could be driven through, and then they do allow for augering, or if I read that correctly, yes, augering of the post holes, as long as there is enough soil around it to keep the other geogrid layers in place. Again, all that is covered on their structural plans, and these structural plans would be adhered to for the construction.
That's fine, John. John, so is FAFD going to be doing the install on this, or is this something that's going to be subbed out?
That was something that we did have a discussion on. They will be hiring a third-party consultant for that. That hasn't been worked out just yet. So I know the question from the commission last time regarding this construction methodology, we would like to propose to have a pre-construction meeting with the new contractor for that wall installation with the commission, and if building inspector or the building department needs to be involved with that, we can coordinate accordingly. And essentially we can go over any thoughts, methodologies that contractor would have in order to prevent any sort of disturbance to the open space area. And then also too, they can go into a little bit more detail on the actual installation if there are any concerns brought up during that time.
Tim, would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah. I did have one more question, Cliff.
Sure.
Looking, when you were showing the slide of the elevation, looking from the rear toward Lover's Lane, looking
Yes.
through, there was a dotted line, and the footing, I don't know what the scale is, but the footing was much higher than the original grade is. So they are aware that they're going to have to get a testing agency in there for compaction tests for underneath that footing, right, John?
I don't handle anything on the the architectural side for
Okay.
the house construction or anything on the structural side for the wall construction. If they do need to have somebody available for that, obviously we'll try to note it to them with as much time as possible. But as far as we go, we're just kind of handling the site development portion. So I'm not specifying anything just yet on that.
Yeah, I meant the foundation wall.
Yeah, so it was, again, with regards to that, I
Okay, all right.
figured that would be more of a either an architectural specification, but if it is something that we can note, I'll definitely have that mentioned to Fafford.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it on the site plan.
We can condition that, and then that way you'll get the information compaction that you need.
Yeah.
So one of the things you know, we can go back and look at the sheet that Tim was talking about, but I'm looking at note 5. It says alternative 1 for fence posts located less than 3 feet from the rear of the wall block. What is the minimum distance they recommend to putting the fence next to the wall?
With regards to that, I did not see any sort of minimum distance that they had specified for it. I'm not sure if there's anything in building code that would dictate that. Essentially, like I mentioned, I would anticipate that they might be going a foot off of the rearmost block and then installing it. But I'm not sure if there are any specific rules or regulations to
Yeah, you know what I can do, Cliff, is when they submit a plan for it, I'll just be looking for that, and I can talk to the engineer on it, that whoever submits the permit for the wall, I'll have to get a detail for that.
Yeah. One of the things we're concerned about is because of the distance between the foundation and the top of the wall, we're talking 10 feet. Obviously, the developer is going to want to maximize that area for egress. And yet, from our perspective, the further away from the face of the wall the fence is, the more secure the wall is going to be in the long run. So there's kind of a balancing act going here. What we don't want to see is we don't want to have, you know, for expediency for the homeowner on the wall, the fence being a foot or 6 inches off the wall, because in the long term that could affect the integrity.
I don't think that it would necessarily affect the integrity too much. I know that anything that they have specified for cutting through GeoGrid, if that might be the concern there, it is something that I believe there is a note that it would not be affecting anything adversely there. But if there is any additional concerns that I need to follow up with the structural engineer on, I can definitely do so for it.
Yeah, well, so that was my point, Cliff. I'd rather see them show it on the plan going through their product. At the end of the day, they're the ones responsible. I don't want to put my 2 cents in on that. Okay. I want them to design it and have it be their idea, and then that's it, you know, so there's no liability on anybody's, you know, trying to design where the fence goes. You follow me?
Yeah, fair enough.
Yep.
Now I'll ask Frank, you know, I hope that we've addressed some of the issues that you raised, but you've had an opportunity to hear the interaction here. Do you have any thoughts on this?
A couple of things. One, in the notes as you read through the Versalok plans, they reference the owner's site representative as having some authority to like check the soil compaction and stuff like that. And so I think my question would be, and this may be more, Tim may be the person that can sort of enforce this, is to have somebody out there who is doing that owner's site representative and doing things like, you know, is the fence blending into the grade appropriately? Is the area underneath the footing being compacted appropriately? That you may have a very good construction foreman, but you might not. And I'm actually happy to hear, my understanding is how do I put this gently? The performance in construction on this site in the past has not been the most stellar in the world. And so I wouldn't want to have something happen with this wall that's 10 feet high that has not been done and appropriately reviewed. So it might be, maybe there's a condition, and maybe this is with Tim, that the person who's going to be responsible on the site is somehow qualified to make the statements that are required by Versalok to make sure the wall stands up appropriately, blends in appropriately, those kind of things. I think it's basically meeting with the building code, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, yeah, Frank. So I think if they're going to have the owners, I mean, the engineer was going to do some independent inspections for the wall. So I think that's a good thing. The other thing is, you know, when they start the construction of the wall, I would go out there and just to make sure all the top and sub is gone and they're not on fill, they're down to clay or whatever the material, or if it's rock material, and then they can start from there. And I think, you know, I think in the past they've used Yankee for their compaction testing, but now that I have a heads up on everything, I can see the foundation is a fill and part of the wall is probably a fill, depending on where that, you know, that I don't know how accurate that dotted line is, that existing grade, but you know, if they start, they at the end of the day, they have to scrape off the top and sub and it goes lower. So, you know, I'll keep an eye on that when they finally permit for the wall. So I'll have to do some inspections as well. So.
Okay. And then I think the other piece that I had there was there's a lot of really good detail in the Versalock design plans. And as I mentioned, I've worked with Versalock on other projects on my own over the years. I know Randall Bragdon. I've talked with him. I'm not very friendly with him, but I've known him. The projects that he's built, designed walls on, still standing and have done pretty well. So I have good confidence in his design. I think it would I'd be concerned to make sure that there's the manufacturer's guidelines are followed very carefully throughout the entire construction. I'm happy to hear the angled wall will probably be a convex wall, whatever, a curved wall, only because they talked about they got to cut the blocks. It's a special cut, and if you make a mistake, it could impact the structural integrity. So I think that's a positive thing. The tight area beyond the, I guess it's on the easterly side, the open space parcel B, I think it is. It's very tight. If you go from the bottom of the wall, it's about 10 feet high. The wall set back a foot. It sort of sets back every foot about an inch. So you got about another foot from the bottom of the wall face to the top of the wall face. You're now about 8 feet. And that's just about where the, I think it's a 7-foot grid fabric. There is a note that says you can, if you get close to the building, you can cut it back some. And I'm very pleased. I know they mentioned the last time, it would be nice to get it in writing maybe, that the way they're gonna build this wall in the house is they're gonna build it concurrently with the wall being brought up to a point. They do the foundation, they bring the wall up back and forth, because it's a very tight area, about an 8-foot area. You're gonna have to fit something in there. I think that'd be a little bit careful with that one. Really, I think all the items, my notes got answered. My comments got answered, so I think I'm pretty comfortable, subject to those, whether it be conditions or whether they be under Tim's control or whatever.
All right, any questions from the committee? We heard from Frank. We've heard from Tim. Tim, thank you for your inputs. Most valuable.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks,
Really
Tim.
appreciate it.
No problem.
Any other questions from the commission?
I would give any other commissioners a chance. I have 2 questions, but I'll let somebody else go first if they have any.
Go ahead, Mike.
John, can you look at the the overhead view of the wall in the back there? I'm particularly curious as the wall is now going to be not 2, I think it is 45s that you're showing, but a curve in the back corner there, if I remember that elevation or that overhead view.
Sure. Bear with me one moment here.
My question is going to be, how close will that curve now, because it does change the way the wall moves. The right-hand most, where it goes from straight to the first 45 there, depending on how that curves, you're right on the line right now. It looked like on that schematic that you showed us from Versalock that curve can angle out or in depending on how it's curving.
That is correct.
That's an outward curve. I'm just concerned a little bit that has been carefully delineated to avoid it. It sounds like it's going to be done sort of in the field rather than, you said, your plans still show the 45s and Tim asked the question, is it going to be a curved view now instead? And you seem to be saying yes, but it seems to be like sort of they'll decide it in the field. But
With regards to that, as far as our plan goes, it is a site plan. I believe anything for the construction of the wall would follow the structural plans in that case. If there is any more detail that would have to be put in, I can relay that to the structural engineer on the Versalock side of things. The intent from any discussions that I have would be to have those areas curving.
so if they curve, just to be clear, so if they curve instead of the 45s they're showing now, and they have to curve, and that cuts sort of the angle off, it's going to cut it on the inside and not extend outward, correct?
That is correct. So we would be coming even further away from the 25-foot no disturb area.
Okay, just want to be clear. And the second question is, when you talked about the recommendation from Versalock for the pitch away from the wall, the base of it,
Yes.
from as being 3 to 1, I assume that's the maximum that they would like to see it, and that's about what it is in the back of the wall, you said, as it goes towards the rain garden. My question is, you did mention it does slope away, and you can see that in this view somewhat, but what is the pitch along the wall, the right-hand side of the lot as we're looking at this view now, that 150-foot length or so?
Along this
Into
way
the open
here.
space, yes. What is the pitch from the wall into the open space?
I believe the existing contours are roughly at about a 3 to 1 slope, maybe a little bit less there. As far as that goes, there wasn't any concerns that was expressed by the structural engineer when we did review those grades and any sort of proximity to the foundation with the wall or the height of the wall or anything along those lines.
It looks like 2.5 to 1.
So my question is, can we get that formally approved by Versalock? Because they can't go over to the right-hand side of the wall and start scraping and grading to get to 3 to 1 if it's 2.5 or something. It may not matter a whole lot, it may matter a lot, but that they should be absolutely clear on that, because they can't go over the other side of the wall and do any grading. And if it's not meeting their maximum requirements for pitch, then they need to address that.
Yeah, I mean, that is something that we can relay back to the structural engineer there. I'm not sure if that would necessarily be anything that we need to hold this up, or if we could have that done through any sort of conditions or through the building department if needed there. Obviously, we'll relay those concerns there.
Well, I'll just ask the one layman's question. If that's decided at the time and the Versalock engineer says, oh, it is 2.5 to 1, we measured it, not 3 to 1, we really don't want to guarantee our wall if it's not 3 to 1 at the base or less. You don't have any options to regrade to the right of the wall. So what's going to be decided if the wall's about to be put up? They're not going to want to move the property, the wall 5 feet to the right or 3 feet to the left. 3 feet to the left or 2 feet to the left. They're going to want to be right to the maximum property line.
As far as that goes, I mean, if the grades don't work there, and that's something that it wouldn't fly with any sort of Versalock design, I feel that, if did have to go closer to the foundation, that, or if they did have to try to shift that building, that would have to be something done on the fly. But again, I can double check with Versalock prior. I mean, it's kind of hard to say in that case there, without having everybody present to speak on their end.
Well, I think at the very least, we should be looking at is, and I understand that the construction of the wall may be a little different than the site plan that you have prepared, but Mike raises a good point. Instead of a pair of 45s to gain your 90-degree, we're talking about radius in the wall. I think the site plan should reflect that, so that there's absolutely no misunderstanding between any of the parties involved, that we're not doing 245s, we're doing the radius wall as it shows on the second page, the first page of the engineer plans.
Sure, I can show that if it is needed at all. I would like to request, though, that if we do have to make that plan change on the G&H side of things, that plan could be submitted and then have that still the hearing and everything closed out accordingly. I don't really think that change would warrant us to have to come back for a whole nother meeting and fill up your agenda in any way there.
Well,
I mean, if I could, sorry, I'm sure Versalock has a radius that they can use. And maybe if you wouldn't mind, John, maybe you talk to Versalock and what is the radius they use? So you could start and get that radius in that corner.
Oh,
And
no, I can definitely make the update there. But since nothing would really be changing in terms of grades or anything, it's just a matter of updating a plan view. I'm just wondering if we would just be able to have it, get submitted sometime next week or as soon as possible, and then everything would still keep moving forward. Not that we would hold this up just for that.
Mr. Chair, I'm a little less concerned about moving this particular lot forward. Plenty of other lots in this project are moving forward. But I am concerned that if we know precisely where this wall is going to go from Lover's Lane all the way out to the other corner, I don't know why we couldn't determine well before they get the approval whether they have the proper grade for Versalock to guarantee with the stamped engineer's approval that the bottom of the wall meets their specs and that they don't need to either consider moving the wall, because I don't go for on the fly. I'm sorry, I'm not in favor of that.
Well, with regards to that, I do know that I have reviewed the grades with the structural engineer. On the plans, he does have some rough grades shown on there. He has seen the cross sections as well. No concerns were expressed over those existing grades, particularly along the longer face of the wall. So I don't foresee that as being an issue for them to be able to certify that.
Have they visited the site?
I'm not fully aware if they have visited the site, but again, we did have those discussions and provided any additional information that they needed for it.
So it's Versalock's opinion that this is standard operating procedure, nothing unusual.
They haven't noted anything as being abnormal for this one.
I think we need to see that in writing.
And I would further add, if I could, Mr. Chair, John, how precise have you been in providing information to them about what the actual pitches and grades are along that entire long?
We have provided them a copy of this plan. If they had any additional questions or follow-ups, we've been in discussions with them. I know I have, like as I mentioned, spoken to the structural engineer regarding the wall construction, and he's not finding any sort of issues there. I'm sure if there was something that he wasn't too comfortable with, he would not have stamped the plan and had that submitted to us.
Your degree of confidence is higher than mine, unfortunately for me, because I don't.
Well, we're in a position where we have to permit something, looking at, the long-term viability of it. Now, we know we're going to have inspectional services watching it for us. That's positive. We know that we're going to have an independent contractor with experience constructing these walls. But I think, as is our normal procedure, we don't close hearings. What we do is we work on development of the order of conditions, and then at the next hearing, we close and vote the issue. I think it's important that there's no confusion. We know that this is a difficult lot. Personally, I was unsure that this was a permittable lot, but I think we've come a long way. And I'm starting to think that with the oversight that is going to be required and provided, that there's a much higher degree of comfort. I will say, however, that I would like to see something with specificity from Versalock relative to the site-specific grades. And I'd also like to see the site plan revised to show radius rather than the 245s, so that there's absolutely no confusion during construction.
Understood for the site plan portion. That is something that I'll definitely be providing back to the commission. I hope it wasn't understood that I wasn't going to try to provide that to you guys. That would be the case. I would be getting you over a new stamp copy showing the radius there for you.
Okay.
And then I will make sure I do reach out to them to get some sort of letter regarding the existing grades and any proposed slopes out there.
Site-specific.
Site-specific, yes.
Okay, so what do you think the time frame is on that?
As far as a letter goes, I can try reaching out to them tomorrow. They might be able to get something turned around by next week. No guarantees. I don't know how much of a workload they have on their end for it. In terms of my end, I can have a radius put in before the end of the week and can hopefully get a stamp plan over to you guys next week in that case.
Mike, what do you think? Are you confident with where we're going with this?
I think it's definitely an improvement, but I keep hearing on the fly and they'll figure it out on the site and so forth. And I know there's always a certain amount when you're doing construction of that, but with this contractor, not contractor, with this developer and this particular overall larger site, my confidence has been shaken somewhat, and I haven't dealt with it nearly as long as you have. So,
and that is something too that we kind of wanted to have that pre-construction meeting so that the person specifically doing the construction of this wall can meet with the commission to hear and try to dispel any of your concerns that you might have there. And then in a conjunction that would be tied in with any inspections through the building department or through the structural engineer on the actual wall to ensure that everything is done correctly so that there is no issues that would be coming down the road for that.
So Mike, we have an independent contractor who's experienced in constructing these walls. And we have the oversight from inspectional services.
Very competent.
is the Versalock wall that's being put in here substantially different than the Charles River Plaza one that failed?
Yes.
They're both were Versalock, correct?
I think it was similar to Versalock, but I don't think it was an actual Versalock wall. But what happened?
That was where the blocks actually failed, correct?
Yes, and it was because of the improper installation of the geogrid, and there was no oversight during construction. And that was part of the problem. So,
yeah, if anything has to be done to this wall in the future, as somebody mentioned earlier, Tim, or maybe it was Frank, that to repair it, or there's a partial failure or a excessive weep it, whatever, there's nowhere to work on. They're not going to dig up the 8 foot between the existing house and the wall and try to work on the inside. They're going to want to get an exclusion to go into the open space. And if the property line was further back, they would have a bigger issue, but they don't have that option now, or they don't want to exercise that option.
that's why we're trying to provide all the oversight we can to make sure that we don't have the kind of failure we did at Charles River.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, Cliff, if I could add something there.
Sure.
So comparing the wall to Charles River, look what they did over there with no space, to reconstruct that wall. So I'm sure that, if there was a failure, here, they would be able to repair it. I mean, it wouldn't be a disaster or anything. I think a big part of that wall that fell apart over there, I think, like you said, it was part of the construction of it. Also, the water got behind it, and then the salt from the road, I think, is what the ultimate failure was there. But so this here, I mean, if it started to decay or anything over time, it wouldn't be so bad. They could sit right up on top of the thing and start repairing it. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Because we are so late. We have a hearing that was supposed to open up at 7:20. So we are late. And this
Apologies for my presentation running a little long.
well, it's not your presentation, it's the questions that we had. And we have agonized over this lot for multiple meetings. So from the commission's perspective, we requested a lot of information, and we've requested additional information there. We've had it reviewed by the Director of Inspectional Services and by independent engineering review. And I think that we have an alternative. The only other alternative we have is we deny the project as being unbuildable, and yet what we have here is common engineering practices that indicate that it is buildable with special precautions. And I think that there was a time when I didn't think the lot would be buildable, but the questions have been answered. And I mean, Mike, I don't know what else we can ask them to do. What is your thought here? I mean, it's not going to be built by the company who built, Lakeview Estates. It's going to be built by somebody who has expertise in building these walls.
I mean, I've asked all the questions I can ask. My level of comfort isn't high with this. I think it's just frankly too small a lot, too close to an area that shouldn't be disturbed, and with a methodology that I'm not as familiar with. I understand we got plenty of people potentially watching it, although 1 or 2 visits by Versalock engineer doesn't seem
If
a lot to me.
more is specified by the building department, we can provide more in that
I
case.
understand that. No, I heard you say that, John. I'm not saying that, but that was the initial comment. I don't know how long it takes to build a wall like this, whether it takes 4 days or 4 weeks, because you're doing a lift at a time and so forth. And, I've asked the questions I want to ask, and if any other commission members have concerns, they certainly have a chance to express them. And I think John has been good about providing information as best he can. I can tell his hands are tied somewhat, and he wants to get this project approved, but it's very close to and the developer knows this, very close to the open space, and my priority is protecting that over anything else if I can. So anyway, I won't hold things up. We're already half an hour late or more.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, it's okay. We cannot be accused of not being thorough. Are there any other questions from commissioners on this? All right. So John, we're going to rely on you to provide that information for us. The site-specific letter from Versalock and the revised plan. What I'm going to propose is that we continue this to the evening of March 10th, and we will begin the development of the order of conditions. But we will not be able to issue the order of conditions until we have the information. So now,
If I'm able to get you a plan sometime next week, and then hopefully have a Versalock letter turned around, fairly quickly, maybe within the next week as well, would that allow you to be able to review and then issue anything at the next meeting, or it would then be reviewed at the next meeting, continued again, and then closed out, sometime in April in that case, just so I can try to see your time frame for things here.
well, it would be, ideally, you would get us the information. We will work on development of the order of conditions. But we have to reference these 2 last pieces of information. And ideally, we would like to do it on the 10th. If you were unable to provide it in a timely fashion and we couldn't reference it in the order, it would be the 24th, not April.
Okay, I'm sorry, I got my dates confused.
That's okay.
I know on my end, I'll definitely be able to get you a plan next week. So hopefully that gives you 7+ days to review anything. And then I'll follow up with Versalock tomorrow to try to get a letter from them. I can't guarantee anything on their time frame for it, but I'll definitely try to push them with the understanding that if they can get us the information, we will be able to have this off your guys' agenda on the 10th.
Okay. Right. That being the case, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing for the evening of March 10th at 7:05 and have an order of conditions prepared pending requested information.
So moved.
Mary Ann.
Second.
Noel.
Noel, sorry.
All right.
Brian. Okay. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. I do appreciate your time tonight, and I will make sure that I do get everything over to you ASAP. Just one final question. To help keep the process moving, would you need a PDF in order to make any sort of references, or do you need a physical hard copy in that case? I will try to provide physical hard copies as soon as possible.
Of the plan?
Yes, or any letter in that case as well.
I definitely need a paper copy of the plan.
Yeah, no, I will be providing that, but I'm just wondering if we were able to get you a PDF sooner, if that would help keep the process moving, or if you need that physical copy to do that.
Well, I think you'll make every effort to get it to us. Both
Oh,
of
no, that is the case. But like if I can get you, say, a stamped copy tomorrow, but we can't get a courier over there until next week, if that's gonna hold anything up or anything.
Of course, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I do appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right,
Tim, thank you very much.
Tim, we really appreciate that.
You might sign it.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Have a good night.
You
Thanks.
too. So we have Sean on, we have Don on, and we have Frank on. I apologize, I really do. All right, but let's proceed. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold public hearings in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the notice of intent with the proposed drainage improvements to the existing interconnection and discharge of the Lakeview Estates and Silver Lake Road drainage systems located within the 100-foot buffer zone at Assessor's Map 68, Lot 10, at the intersection of Candlelight Lane and Silver Lake Road, Bellingham. Robert Poxinger and Howland, Milford, Mass. has submitted the following on behalf of the Bellingham Department of Public Works, Blackstone Street, Bellingham, and Salem Traders Way Realty LLC, Quarry Drive, Milford. Continuations will be held on the evening of February 24th at 7:20. Oh my God, we're late. Apologies.
I thought my watch was wrong.
Maybe it'll be worth your
Central
while.
Time.
Maybe it will be worth your while.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to suggest, Sean, why don't you put the plans back up? And I know that Frank has commented, and I think that I'd like to just have you do a quick recap, let Frank add his comments, and then see if Mr. DiMartino has anything to add, and then take it from there.
Okay. Quick recap. So what we're proposing is some additional drainage structures in Silver Lake Road, a new double grade catch basin at the base of Candlelight Lane and Silver Lake Road, which would then discharge into the forebay of Basin C. Modifications to Basin C, including cleaning out the forebay and reconstructing and lowering the forebay check dam so it doesn't build up as much water and head in it, and reconfiguring the Basin C itself to be an extended dry detention basin by incorporating a new low flow 2-inch orifice at the base so it won't retain storm water, since we've concluded that it does not in fact meet the requirements of an infiltration basin. We've modified the outlet to this basin to disconnect it from the sediment trap that was installed in Silver Lake Road. So now the basin will have its own discharge to Silver Lake via 2 new 12-inch culverts crossing Silver Lake Road. At this catch basin here, we're designing this to also serve as an overflow catch for any additional storm flowage in Silver Lake Road, so that it can be discharged through these through this basin, through these pipes, rather than flooding over Silver Lake Road. As an additional measure, we've also added a catch basin immediately downstream of the double grade catch basin. And this is designed to accept any overflow during high storm events, 100-year storm events, where this may surcharge. So we can catch that and then pipe that directly to the discharge apron into Silver Lake. Again, the whole idea is to take the burden off of this one drainage structure, which we feel has been susceptible to some flooding in the recent past. In addition, we're also removing the stone swales that were installed during construction in this slope here and regrading the slope, adding a swale along the sidewalk to catch any runoff prior to getting over into the sidewalk and then running down the street. So essentially cutting off some potential of bypass flow. And all this will be channelized down into the sediment forebay via this swale. We have stone check dams every 100 feet. These are relatively low profile, about 6 inches high or so, just to take the curse out of the velocity of the flow coming down the hill. And then we have this riprap apron at the base of this to control any erosion. One recommendation in Frank's most recent letter we got the other day was to add some energy dissipation coming into this forebay. So what I've done here is I've extended this riprap apron with a flare. It's a 10-foot wide apron, and I flare it out to 20 feet. And then also indicate that it has to extend at least 5 feet into the flat portion of the forebay. So that'll prevent any erosion once it comes down the hill and gets into the forebay. I think that pretty much sums up where we're at on this plan.
Okay. Frank.
I can make this short and then have a couple comments, but pretty much all the comments I have brought up in past reviews have been addressed by this latest set of the plans, including the addition of the little energy dissipator into the forebay. I think that's a really good idea. I think that's fine. There were two other items that were brought up to ask my opinion on. One was is there some way on that nice slope that's there, it's about an 8 or 9 to 1 slope, 8 or 9% slope. Could there be some kind of terrace type drainage system? And way back in the youth of my engineering career, we would use those on major highways like that. And so I went in and I actually looked at the old design manuals, which I found out, at least on the ones online, are now archived. And part of that is because better sedimentation and erosion control measures, the fabrics, the other materials you put over there have eliminated the need. The issue with the terraces were, one, they were hard to build and then maintain, and two, you had to get rid of the water. So you typically had some kind of a drain that connected down the slope somewhere and stuff like that. If that got clogged up, then it would go down the slope and cause a concentration. So I would not recommend that terraces be put in this area here. Again, I think the whole key is to make sure it's put in correctly and the slope is stabilized very well before you remove any of the erosion controls. I think what I've seen here, subject to having an oversight during construction and immediately after, I think that would be fine. Then the other item, which is a hot one, is what could you do for phosphorus removal? And what I'm finding on projects I'm working on in the private sector, my other life, it's very hard to do anything when it's already been built. The stuff we looked at the material that was provided to us from Stantec and WPI. I think it had some issues. It's over in Watertown development. And then we also went into one of the folks in my office that knows all about this and reviewed the Massachusetts MS4 permit. And they have a whole section. I think it's attachment 2 to Appendix F on things you can use. One sort of sidebar, they have a pollution loading you can get rid of by repurposing property. Bellingham has the highest one in eastern Massachusetts, like 10.8 pounds per acre. I'm not sure why that is, but you may know better than me. And again, you're sort of limited. You really can't recharge it because obviously we've got high groundwater. You're doing some of the normal type stuff like the street sweeping, catch basin cleaning, those kind of things. I would, again, might recommend that if they're not getting reports to the town on a regular basis, annually or semi-annual, that might be something to make sure it's being done. But there's really not much I could come up with at this area here. The only other item that came up was when you do major landscaping areas, like you're talking about when this area is upgraded as part of the Bellingham shores, there may be some plantings and things like that you can do at the top of the hill there that might provide some phosphorus removal. Maybe this area, when the town is not subjected to phosphorus containing fertilizers, those kind of things, which are not greatly, they're not hard and fast like an engineer would like to, but it's what I think is maybe reasonable. In my new education over the last week on phosphorus removal, the best thing is to change the land use. And so if you've got a nice factory or something like that, industrial area, and you go to a residential or green space, it's a wonderful removal for doing not too much. It's not much you can do when you're going from an undisturbed space into a developed area. And I don't think you have control over the adjacent lots about fertilizer. So that's really the bulk of my comments, and be happy to answer any questions.
Well, I want to thank our newest commissioners for taking this on and presenting their ideas, because I think the ideas had merit, and I think that we asked Frank on behalf of the commission to investigate it, and I know that they brought it to their team because I had conversations with some members of their team. And in fact, we discussed what our status was on organic chemistry. And I decided that that's part of a life that I'm glad I left behind. But it's really good to have commissioners involved with ideas. And the ideas were evaluated. And I think in this particular instance, what Frank is saying makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to ask that commissioners, when they have thoughts and ideas like these, bring them up at the meeting so that we can, discuss them and evaluate them. We don't want to be doing work behind the scenes, but in this case, I think it was warranted. And again, I want to thank both those members, Ariane and Noel, for undertaking this, because it just makes the commission better.
And if I could add, phosphorus is going to be an issue in the future.
Yes, it is.
So 25 years ago, people were cringing at the word water quality unit, and you didn't know how to handle it and how to design them and whatever else. That's now a common factor, but phosphorus and other things are going to be a requirement. And so maybe the technology is not up to speed yet or whatever, or we have to look at better ways of addressing them. But again, that is a cutting edge discussion right now throughout the area and the industry.
So Ariane and Noel, you put us on the map with the discussion. That's very good. We want to be on the cutting edge. Are there any other questions or comments on this?
I have one about the
We lost you.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I had one about the operating manual part. Are we going to get to that?
Got it.
The operation and maintenance plan.
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
question about that, but I don't want to jump ahead if this is.
No,
Okay.
we're open for questions now. Go ahead.
All right, so on that plan, the cover page or the first page, there seems to be a little bit of, in my view anyway, a little bit of conflict of timing. The inspection maintenance schedule says the stormwater management system shall be inspected by the owner operator on a routine basis, not less than once per month for the first 6 months of operation and annually thereafter. Then That's fine. And then I go down to section 5 and it says sediment forebays shall be inspected monthly, which is fine for the first 6 months. But then it says, and accumulated sediment and debris shall be removed at least 4 times per year, which implies a different maintenance plan than the overall, which would be annually. So after the first 6 months, is it just the sediment and forebays that are being dealt with differently? I just wanted the consistency there. I don't know if that's viewed as not a big deal or not an issue, or if it's confusing to somebody else.
Yeah, and if I could, I think that yeah, we kind of just have the annually as a general blanket minimum, and then I think each of these items that have a more specific time associated with this would supersede that.
If that's the standard practice, that's fine. I just happened to catch it and say to myself, both for the DPW and for us, it's, you know, we're both on the hook with this in our own areas. And I don't know if anybody else has any questions about that, but.
Well, I guess that once the town accepts the roadways and the stormwater management system, it will be subject to a yearly inspection and review. That's normally the standard. I don't know if Don is still on, but I think that's, oh yeah, there it is. Is that satisfactory? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine if it's not a constitution or.
Typically, once an area is stabilized, actually, almost, I don't know that we've taken a 5-gallon pail out of any sediment forebay in the last 10 years. And that's annual. I mean, it's just, once you get stabilization, unless you have something catastrophic that fails and you start to get erosion, we don't use sand anymore. We clean our catch basins more often. What comes out the end of the pipe is rarely has sediment in it to the point that cleaning it is an awful lot. So we'll be checking the sediment forebay once a year, probably not much more than that, and cleaning it out as necessary.
Okay. And
Well, that means our stormwater management upstream systems are working properly.
Right. You want it to never get to the forebay, and that's what catch basins are for, and so forth.
This is not during construction.
Right.
During construction, you know, it was obviously a mess there, but you know, once it's constructed, the idea is that the water's treated before it gets to the forebay, and yeah, okay.
And in one of the documents that was provided by Amy and Ann in the Dropbox, I think, about the overall, I think it was under the peer review section with Frank and the comments back and forth. The area that caught my eye, and I know we spent some time as commissioners walking this area, at the end of the discharge area, riprap area, swale area into the Silver Lake, where it had been not dealt with properly, let's put it that way, and needed to be addressed. It looked like in one section it was talking about cleaning that out. In another area, I thought it mentioned something about how the riprap looked in good shape, and Frank or someone seemed to be commenting that, yeah, it looked like the riprap didn't need any attention. So if it's going to be, in fact, revegetated or re-cleaned out down at the end near it where it hits the lake, that's fine, but I just wanted to make sure that that was explicitly going to be happening.
I can address that, and I think that Frank and Sean and Jim were there as well, and we looked at that specifically, and decided that technically it appeared that there might be a little bit higher elevation there than existing conditions, but it was completely vegetated with wetland vegetation. So I think it was a consensus, Mike, that, you know, rather than excavate and then, you know, disturb the soils that were there and wait for new plant growth, that we would be better served to, you know, let the existing vegetation remain the way it is. It's all wetland vegetation. You know, we didn't see any evidence of silt Um,
That seems to be a little different than when we were walking in as commissioners a couple of times and standing down there. It seemed like at least twice we stood down near the end and said, well, this has to be dealt with. So what
Sure.
changed your opinion again? Just a reevaluation of the elevation?
Well,
The
no, what they
vegetation's
did,
there.
remember, they regraded the swale and they moved the riprap around in the swale. They pulled it back.
Somewhat, yeah.
They did that some time ago.
Yeah, but I thought there was still a fair bit, and even fabric within, like, I don't know, I'm going to top of my head, 6 or 8 feet of the last line of vegetation that was embedded in the stones and stuff like that. And we were talking about that should have been dealt with. No, that not the case. I might be misrecalling that part of where the fabric down at the bottom and or the mesh sticking up in the sides, sort of like fish netting and so forth, was down along the sides nearer to where we wanted it to be than the road end, where there was still a lot of it up there. But if I remember the regrading last time we walked it and seeing the stones have been changed around somewhat. Have we experienced any heavy rainstorms since then?
Yes.
To see how it handles it?
Yes, we have. We've had several large storm events. And we haven't seen any, I think we've seen some collection on Silver Lake Road. And part of the problem was bypass from the double catch basins on Candlelight, as well as contributions coming down from the sidewalk. So that portion of the drainage system has been revised to accommodate flow that was not caught during, the original construction and the original design. But in terms of the outlet, that one 10-inch pipe, I'm sure that the pipe gets very full, and it may, I don't think it surcharges back into the basin, but there's no erosion or sedimentation that we could see since the last regrading of that basin. I mean, I don't know if Jim is still here. He was there. Sean was there. Frank
We
was
don't
there.
anticipate it being any worse with the 2 10-inch pipes instead of the one, what is it, 12 or 16-inch?
2 12s, and we're gonna have the 2 12s.
Oh, I thought it was 10. Okay.
Right.
So that'll just, the volume isn't going to increase and cause more of a problem. It's just spread out through 2 pipes instead of 1. Is that the idea? So less velocity?
Right.
Okay.
It is, and the basin has been slightly widened. I mean, the riprap swale has been slightly widened. Yeah, right there to accommodate that. But the volume of water is going to be very similar to what it is. I mean, Sean, there's going to be a minor increase in the volume of water because we're catching it. Actually, it's going into the basin. The only time there'll be an increase is at the 100-year storm event. Is that correct?
Even then, I don't know that the volume is increasing, and what we have here is an actual reduction in the rate of flow going to the pond. And to expand a little bit about what we were just talking about, right now there's just one 10-inch pipe, so all the storm water is coming down and being forced through that one 10-inch pipe. So that's going to produce some significant velocity coming out of that pipe. By dispersing it between the 3 pipes, we're going to calm that down. So I think there should be an improvement to that effect.
Okay. And the last thing I was going to ask was, this is in regards to what was brought up at the last meeting. I know this is kind of last minute in the whole planning of things, but what Noel and Amy had brought up about, no, it's not Amy, Ariane. Thank you. About the limestone and or trees instead of just grass on the slopes to deal with both phosphorus loading and perhaps erosion control a little bit better on the slopes than just grassing in a fairly steep hillside. Any chance that that can be reflected in the developer's willingness to help abate the impact on Silver Lake?
Well, we talked about this a little bit before too, and this is where this crosses over to the Bellingham Shores project, where the developer is donating, I think, what was it, $120,000 for re-landscaping and making improvements to this area at the town's will. So, and then we provided a conceptual plan showing that's where that donation number came from. So right now, that's kind of in the town's court as part of the Bellingham Shores project. Once the money is donated.
So I guess maybe to further expand on Mike's comment, you know, the riprap swale that you're putting in to accept the flow that's going to be coming in parallel to the sidewalk. Now, would there be any pollution attenuation if like limestone was used in that area? Is that maybe what Mike was thinking? Would that help with phosphorus reduction, or would the velocity of the water as it traverses into the forebay, would the effect be minimal? I mean,
well, you know, quite honestly, I'm not all that familiar with the limestone and how that affects phosphorus. If that's known to help neutralize phosphorus, that could help. This is receiving runoff from lawn areas. So if the phosphorus concern is being generated from fertilization and lawn care, something like that could help. And the whole idea of the check dams is it slows and detains that water behind it a little bit. So to answer your question, it could, with some attenuation, help with some attenuation there.
see, the bottom line is that, you know, in the pre-development condition, the water from an undeveloped site reached the lake eventually. But now what we're doing is we're concentrating and we're having water run across lawn areas that, I mean, people still don't understand, you know, the importance of, you know, limiting the nitrogen and phosphorus profile for the sake of having green lawns. And we know for a fact that Silver Lake is experiencing advances in eutrophication, and these are contributory factors. So I don't know. I have no experience in whether or not it would be effective. You know, logic would dictate, and I saw the chemistry. It seemed like a logical thing, but and Frank's folk did take a look at that. And was there any thought on that specifically, or?
Not on the limestone. So I've talked with some of the folks that I work with that know much more than I do. And the couple of things that they said they're using, and these are small removal type things. They do remove phosphorus. So things like a filter strip, a vegetated filter strip that it's a flat area that may have a special media in it, or there are tree wells where, again, you basically sort of direct some water to the tree or a series of trees, and they have, again, a media in that, special soil types that between the tree and the media, they soak up, if you will, phosphorus. That's a much more simplification than what they told me. And so, again, I think those areas at the top of the slope, before the water runs down the slope, if that can be incorporated in a future landscape design or something, I think that may be helpful. And they may not be using fertilizer on this parcel, but the drainage from the back of those residential lots on the other side of the property, that runoff, whatever nitrogen, phosphorus is in that could get picked up with that. I have not designed them either. Again, this is sort of new territory, and that people are now looking back and trying to figure out ways of addressing it. I believe the Stantec study talked about removing, sounds counterintuitive, but removing, leaf litter and stuff like that and disposing it properly so it doesn't run into, decompose and run into the lake. Those make sense, but they're not a huge thing. Right now, we can put in a water quality unit and we can get rid of 80% or more of the total suspended solids. I don't think we're there yet for designs, to be honest. And it's going to take a little while to get there. So I can't say, let's put in a phosphorus interceptor or something like that, and
Yeah.
we reduce it. I don't think we're there yet. We need to be there, though, at some point soon.
So, Mike, it appears that, maybe what we could do, because I think that the design and the work that we've done has advanced the project enough so that we can start development of the order. Maybe what we could do is have Sean investigate while we prepare the order to see if there might be some positive effect in mitigation for phosphorus for doing as you suggested in the upper swales using limestone. If the time of concentration would allow for some kind of removal.
That's fine. Yeah, and also when he mentioned the trees and the wells, I had the thought in the back of my mind, the Conservation Commission did not want to accept that back hillside area as open space for the Conservation Commission, correct? Is the town accepting it?
Yes.
So if, in fact, Frank or somebody can research the tree and the well thing, and they were talking about putting trees at the top of that, I believe, at the slope, and the neighbors didn't want to have trees too close together, so the plan that we saw showed them wanting to be spread further apart, like every 40 feet or 20 feet. But if they're going to put trees up at the top of the slope in the back of these people's houses, might be a good opportunity as part of an overall town plan, if that's some of the money that the developer is giving for this kind of dealing, to maybe put those in if somebody can provide some specifics about it.
Agreed. If the town's going to be undertaking landscaping, if we can get pollution attenuation as a result, I mean, it's a win-win. So what we can do maybe is, we can have Ian talk to Jim about that, and maybe in consultation with BSC, because BSC is going to be overseeing the construction of the regrading. Maybe they can have some input to the future landscaping in the area.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I'm still going to ask Sean if he would be so kind as to do some sort of investigation and maybe just get back to Ian on that.
I will.
And anything we can do, it's going to be an improvement. Members of this commission were involved in the purchase of Silver Lake. And when we move on down the road, we don't want to leave a weedy mess for the residents.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That being the case, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of March 10th at 7:15, at which time we will prepare an order for signature.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, by unanimous vote.
And Mr. Chair, just one quick thing, and I know Jim is on this call. We have a meeting with the zoning board next Thursday regarding this project and the release of the building permits. And I don't know if they would like something formal from the commission, just as a status, if we could relay basically what your position is at this point. I think that would be helpful to us next week.
Okay. I think what we can do is, I think that Ian will talk to Jim and find out, what would suffice. But it's clearly our intent to close an issue.
Great. I appreciate it.
We appreciate it. We're very pleased that this is going to be something that'll be a long-term solution.
I think so. I think so. All right. You all have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you very much, Don.
And I
Thank you,
think
Frank.
we're also set. So thank you, folks. Appreciate being here. Look forward to the next couple of weeks. You take care.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Frank.
Just two quick things for the commission. We had the meeting, the minutes for February 10th, but I don't want to put them up for acceptance yet. I think they need a little further review. So has everyone had an opportunity to look at the minutes for January 13th and January 27th?
Yes.
Okay, are there any comments?
Amy, I have a question for you. Are you on, Amy?
Yes, I am.
Did you get the email I forwarded to you
When?
just now? Well, while the meeting was going on.
No, I
Okay.
do not answer those, Mike. Remember,
Okay.
we have,
Well, I was going to chat with you. I was going to chat with you and ask you, but I could only get to James or Sean Malone, and I didn't want to chat with them. I highlighted some stuff. Some of it's just little typos, but I figured I'd just send those to you maybe, and you could just correct them. But I can go through them here.
that
Whatever.
works. Whatever works for you guys is fine
Whatever
with
the
me.
commissioner wants, whatever the chairman wants.
How many little corrections do you have?
One's a question about what we meant, and they're like, I don't know, the first one has like 8 or 10. The one on the 13th. I could just stick with the questions and let her deal with just typos. I mean, some are just obvious typos like.
Typos aren't a problem, but
Okay.
questions in terms of intent are important.
Okay, then let me jump to the 13th minutes, page 3,
Okay,
last paragraph.
we're scrambling, hold on.
Yep, that's fine. Take that.
Have them here.
Page 3.
Page 3.
Last paragraph, last couple sentences, starting with, this would be 30 to 40 notices of intents for each individual houses.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mean there's going to be a total of 30 to 40 notice of intents for all the houses, all the individual houses, but
Yeah.
But the last sentence, the chairman commented, the roof infiltrators do count towards total impervious areas as they are being infiltrated on individual lots. I thought they didn't count.
No, they
as
do not.
impervious.
No. Chairman commented that the roof infiltrators, right. No, you're right. You're right on that.
So they don't count as.
So add the word not.
Do not count.
Do not count toward total impervious areas that are being infiltrated.
Okay. All right,
See, they get a credit for that when they're figuring their drainage calculations. So
right. And
you're correct.
And it's pretty obvious that a couple sentences before that, we don't mean that there are going to be 30 or 40 notice of intents for each of the houses, but for all the houses. Okay.
Individual, 30 or 40 individual lots will require the filing of notice of intent.
Okay. All right. That's fine. And then one more thing. In page 4, last paragraph before the final motion for that page, the last sentence, there should also be a condition that the concrete pad will be removed and this shall be replaced with pervious behind the wall and will be loamed and seeded.
Impervious. Impervious.
No, I think we're replacing it with pervious material, right?
Yeah.
But do we have to call out what the pervious material is? That was just my question. This is behind that wall that's failing on Pelletier
Well,
Drive.
I mean, they talked about dirt and grass, you know, fill, loam, and seed. And
Okay.
we can change that, replace with fill, loam, and seed.
Whatever. I just
That's probably more correct.
Okay, so pervious materials. Okay, I thought it was going to be dirt or something, but I just didn't remember the
Yeah,
conversation.
but we should say, you know, you can say pervious materials, or we can say fill, loam, and seed, which is actually what we want. We don't want just gravel.
Okay, well,
And gravel's pervious material, so fill, loam, and seed. Amy, did you get that?
Got that.
Oh, okay.
and I showed some photots, but up above there it says Member O'Haron showed phots, but it was photos, I think. But anyway, of the wall, blurry ones on my phone, I know. That was pretty much it. I'll forward the other one with typos on that one. I'll jump to the 27th real quick, see if there's anything with questions. Again, I'll skip any typo. Bear with me 1 second.
Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah, page, scroll down here, page. This is the meeting of the 27th, page 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's 4. Nope, 5. A lot of pages. Page 6. Big paragraph there, about halfway in the paragraph. The sentence says, talking about the North Mill Street, Main Street, Mill Street, Common Street project, for those that aren't looking at the minutes. The hydrology analysis shows this. The subcatchment area will be added to the revised plan set. This will benefit the town is the town's MS4 compliance, right? Is that MS4 compliance is the phosphorus stuff, right?
Well, it's for everything. It's for stormwater, eliminating direct district. It's a fairly complicated program. Yeah. So I'm not sure where you are. I see the MS4. The other two subcatchment.
Benefit the town.
Oh, there it is. Will benefit the town. This will benefit the town. Oh, in the M, not is.
Oh, in the
In the M, in. Okay.
Okay, and then about 2 sentences on further past that, the chairman would like the applicant's wetland person to do an evaluation for the commission, to provide an evaluation to determine if it's a benefit to cleaning this out or leaving it as a functioning wetland. I figured we could just take out the second, provide an evaluation, right? I mean, you want the applicant's wetland person to do an evaluation for the commission to determine if there's a benefit to cleaning, right?
Yep.
Okay, all right, just thought that would help. Okay, and let's see, I think that was, page 7, the fourth line up from the bottom. I didn't know what this is talking about, the reviews of that same site, and the 1996 is a baseline qualification. Was that a 1996 report, or I didn't know, study, or I didn't know what the...
The 1996 is the qualification that came as a result of the promulgation of the riverfront resource area.
So my question is, it says the 1996, was it a report, a study, a site walk? I don't know.
Well, that's when the riverfront regulation passed, 1996. Okay, so anything that happened prior to 1996 was exempt.
Riverfront regs were established
in 1996.
The 1996 regulations are the baseline qualification. Okay, it was the regulations part that I was missing on. I knew something happened in 1996, but I couldn't remember. So it was the regulations were established. Okay, I didn't.
See, no, Amy reads them, Amy writes them, and then, Ann or I review them, and sometimes, intuitively we know, but we don't. Okay, but you're right. One of the main reasons why our minutes are so thorough is that we're always anticipating that in the event that you go to trial, this is the rule. This is what happened. This is the record. So sometimes we just, okay. But you're right.
I'm just thinking of the thousands of residents in town who want to read these in their spare time and didn't listen to the meeting. We don't want them to be at all confused.
All right. It's a cure for insomnia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. That's all I have. Thank you very much, Amy. I forwarded the other ones. You can look at your emails someday.
Sounds great. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
We vote.
Okay. So in that case, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes of January 13th and January 27th as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, by unanimous vote, I think, unless anyone has anything else.
Signatures?
No signatures this week.
No, but
Whoa.
next meeting we will.
Next meeting, we're going to be buried, so be prepared to be here late in March on the 10th. Do you remember what my favorite coach says? No days off.
And who's your favorite coach? Newt Rockney? Come on.
I thought you were your favorite coach.
No, that's not allowed.
You can't be your own favorite coach?
Come on.
All right, so motion to adjourn. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Noel, make that
Thank
motion.
you, Noel and Amy, for being invested. It's important. It's important work. This is how we get things done.
Hey,
You
Sean,
guys were noticed. You were noticed.
Great.
No, seriously. BSC's impressed. All right. So I have a motion, a second. So we'll see you guys on the 10th.
All right.
All right.
Hey, Sean, are you open? Is Urban Air open, Sean?
Nope.
No. Good luck. All
Shaw Wave.
Shaw Wade.
right.
Thank you, Jim.
Stay safe,
Really
everybody.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks,
Bye.
Amy.
Have a great
Thanks,
night.
guys. Thanks, Lee.